Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Insta-Good Show. I'm Seth, and we're here to help you get Insta-Good at Instagram with your church. So I'm super excited to be here with you today. This is the second week we've got this. I'm really pumped about it. So I'd love to you to just sound off in the comments if you're watching. Let me know where you're watching. Tell me hello, say hi. Tell me what's wrong with my face, if you see something weird, anything like that. So just let me know what's going on, and I'd love to chat a little bit today. So it's going to be fun. We got a lot to cover today. I realize a lot of people in here, there's 22,000 people in this group, so some of you don't know who I am. That's totally cool. I've been in church communications for a while. When this group was about 1,000 people less, is when I jumped in, started to, hey, what's up, team from Jackson Beach, Florida, Nicole from Omaha, how's it going? Great to see you guys. Thanks from Cleveland, John Broom. Hey, Cleveland rocks. I hear Cleveland rocks. So glad you guys could join us today. Join me and just hanging out. Anyway, I joined this group a while back, and it's been a really fun journey with church communications. I mean, it's become this enormous thing that when I first jumped in, it was just Katie, Kenny, Wes, Daryl's in there, a few other people, Bo, and just kind of people are like, all right, some of the people that know what's going on, and obviously nobody else has this job because it doesn't exist. Then suddenly there's 22,000 of us. It's like we all have this job. It's crazy. So really about where this is going and where we're going, especially in 2020 with church communications. I host the Seminary of Hard Knocks podcast. I'd love for you to check that out. A little shameless self plug. I worked for a company called Church Com Team as well. We help church communicators and churches that can't afford communications for a fraction of the cost. So we do that kind of done for you church communication stuff. Anyway, so that a little bit about me. A blog.com. I've been here a while, and guys, it's just really an honor to be on this channel. So that kind of stuff about me doesn't really matter. Let's get Instagram, because there's some stuff going on, man. It's an incredible time to be alive for Instagram if you love this platform. Couple of things. Let's hit the news first. So on the Insta-Good Show, we're going to try to help you get Insta-Good at Instagram, and there's a lot to cover because this is a platform that there's so many different ways to use it. There's stories, there's feed, there's direct messages, there's creator mode, there's images, there's almost like a text function and stories and multiple album posts, and just so many ways, different ways that you can use this thing. So again, if you're new, drop down in the comments, let me know where you're watching from, say hello, say hi, and we're going to get into a few things today. So first of all, in the news, recently Facebook put out an update in the inbox for your direct messages, the DMs. And in there is a primary and a general tab. I don't know if you've noticed it yet, but it's asking you where do you want to put messages you get from people or tabs, and why would we want to do this, right? So if you're using Instagram, this can be official so that you've got people know that are in your church that are staff, maybe volunteers, go to that primary tab, and then maybe any other possible messages you might get go to the general, so that you can keep track of what's going on. Now, if you have a very active Instagram account and you're really working stories well, you'll deal in the DMs a little bit more. And so one of the general is that you can turn notifications for the general tab, and let's get notifications for the primary tab. I know there's a couple of different ways you could probably use that if there's an emergency, things like that. Now, why would you want anything? If you have 10,000 followers on your Instagram, there's going to be like messages from spam, messages from bots. People are like, hey, what's up? And you're like, hey, that's hi, like, what do you say to that, right? So there's going to be things you want to filter to that, or someone that I know that we had someone at a previous church I had that didn't really understand how Instagram worked. It was a young kid. This dude would anytime he had us set up a church as one of close friends. So whenever he posted to his story in close friends, we got it as a directage. And so it was like random weird. It's not for us, not to us. It's just how he was posting. And it's like, you can't really just reach out and go, hey man, you know that you're not doing this right. You can't really do that. So it would have been nice to have it go to that general tab, so I'm not getting this kind of pointless notification all the time, and sometimes I'd respond to it or whatever, but most of the time I didn't. So anyway, you get new vision in your general tabs. I for Instagram to start telling you to send your direct messages a little bit more, because if you do a lot of that and you really start optimizing for that and wanting that interact, it's going to get pretty confusing when you just have to scroll through one long list of things. You don't want to have to do that. So it's really cool they're starting to do that. The other little news item that I want to make you aware of about Instagram's updates is now you have if you have a business account, which you should as a church, I think, you have this option in your settings to use quick reply and set a minimum age that can see your Instagram, which is really interesting. I don't know what you want to do with that, but it will feature like maybe for your student ministry if they have one, or kids ministry, you can set minimum age or whatever. If you've got, I don't know, if it's really more of a feature for those that have like adult content kind of stuff, like it's for a bar. Something like that. You can set a minimum age, like 18 can't even see what we're doing. Under 18 can't even see what we're doing. But it's in business settings, business, and then you can look at all the options there. The thing there that's really important, I think, to us is quick replies. Automate replies. That's like a no in Instagram. You want to be able to reply with context. But the good thing about quick replies is you control sending. It doesn't do it by itself. So you can set up a copy and paste kind of reply for things you get a lot. If, for instance, when is your service times? Where are you located? Things like that. You can have those set up in your quick replies to just quickly reply. It's fantastic. So that's what's in the new Instagram. We'll come with things are coming up. Now let's head over to the FAQ section. The FAQs are the frequently asked questions about Instagram, and one of the ones that I see so many times is hashtags. How do you use hashtags in Instagram? There's a lot of different schools of thought. We've gone through these different phases. Some will say you can use up to 30 in a feed post. That's true. And they say max them out. From Instagram, we recently learned from someone, there was an influencer, I forget her name, but she visited Instagram headquarters, and Instagram people said that's not necessarily a great practice anymore because it looks spammy. And so they suggested that you use 3 to 5 relevant hashtags. And that word relevant is really relevant when we talk about hashtags. Because, hey, what's up, Kenny from New Jersey? How's it going? It's good to see Kenny checking things out. So the relevant word is really important. So when you're using hashtags in your feed posts now, which is what you scroll up for, it might be better for you to about just a couple of relevant hashtags. So instead of rank, you know what's happening on TikTok now? If you're TikTok, you can just go a hashtag like the for you or for you page, and it doesn't really have to do with the content at all. You're just trying. It's like, let's just throw in all the popular hashtags, and they don't have anything to do with the content, and it's just madness. And since there's nobody there, it's working. But now Instagram has 500 billion users. It's just that's not a strategy anymore. And so it's going to look spammy, and the bots that rule the world out there on that platform are not going to like you for that. So it's important that you think about what hashtags you're using. If you have a branded hashtag for your church, specific to your ministry, specific to your church, at Hope Fellowship, I have called Hey Hope. And the only one on it was some kid who had a crush on a girl. He was constantly trying to send her messages, and I was like, well, we're taking that, so I'd influxed with all of ours. But I use that hashtag. You can brand your own hashtag. I'd use that. If you're trying to be found by people that are relevant to your area, I would use city hashtags. We used Frisco, we'd use McKinney, we'd use DFW, North Dallas, location type hashtags. Those tend to help you up in those stories, so know that you're something local they can go to. And Instagram is still really great about that, especially stories. When you tag your location, it automatically can end up in one of those location stories. And so tagging your city, tagging things like that, real small, not invasive. Just do a couple, really fewer than 2 or 3 in stories. Just do like 2 or 3 and that's it. But in your feed, you can get away with 5, maybe 10. You can maybe even go to 10. But they need to be relevant and they need to be smart. So think about your hashtags, how many you should use in your posts, because that's going to help you be disciplined. by others that are actually there that could come to your church and visit. Now, if you're trying to build some global brand, then you use hashtags like church and, well, you might even want to use church. That might work. But still, you might think of something like tag Hillsong, or whatever for people that are looking for that. So whatever. All right, let's get to some tips. I've given you a couple, but today I want to talk about one specific. It's how to handle trolls on Instagram. Now, Instagram is an interesting place because they can DM you, and that's a lot easier to handle than the public comment. But the comments in Instagram, you can go back and forth forever, just like Facebook, and it never do any good at all. So if you're going to deal with any kind of trolling, negative comments, and that's what we need to understand first too, is that there's a difference between someone who has a negative comment and someone who is a troll. And trolls gets this kind of broad category, but the negative comments, really what we're talking about. Trolls are those people that are like really have no interest in, talking to you, things like that. And you can tell sometimes from the beginning, sometimes you can't. There's sometimes a sneaky one that'll ask you a legitimate question with the purpose of drawing you into a conversation to be a troll. They think that's funny. And so you have to watch out for that. You may not know at the beginning that that's what they're doing. And so you can get drawn into it with this process. And you have to kind of realize when that's happening. But some will just comment like, I would never go to your church because you're this political affiliation and you believe this about babies or abortion, blah, blah, blah. Who knows what they'll say? And you can tell pretty much right there that person's probably not really interested, but I think they still deserve some kind of response because, again, they're people. And if you're handling social media for your church, you're representing your church, and the position you want to put yourself in public is that something that Jesus said once, love people. Love people and care about them. And I think that's important that we display that to people when we're online as well as in person. And I think the separation of these two worlds of digital and in your face in real life are blurring together more now. And Instagram is one of those places that's happened. So whenever someone has a negative comment, it might just be a criticism or something that they don't like about your church, or your pastor said something that day, or your post, you might do a sermon clip of your pastor and it has something in there that is, could be taken a certain way and they took it the wrong way, whatever. It's kind of a negative comment. So I'm going to give you a quick little framework of how to answer these types of negativity on Instagram. First, respond. I think it's important that you respond because other people will see what you did and judge you based on that. And you need to represent that well. Represent Jesus well, represent your church well. I think you need to respond. You respond kindly. So use their name. Say, hey, Seth, sorry that you felt that way, whatever. Kind of, I'm sorry that that was your experience with us is a great phrase because it doesn't admit fault, but it also shows empathy that you do really care. So I'm sorry you had that experience. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry that that's happened, whatever. Apologetically address the issue if you need to, but really what you're trying to do, the goal is direct them to a private message and let them know that we're not going to continue this conversation in public because nothing good is going to come of it, really. And you can't really say that, but because then they'll jump on you for going, oh, you're trying to hide something, blah, blah, blah. No. You don't want that. You just want to get it to a private conversation as fast as you can. Apologetically, I'm sorry that was your experience with us. We'd love that chance to make it right. We'd love a chance to talk to you about it, find out what happened, however you want to say it. And can we DM you about this? And in Instagram, what's great is you can DM them. You don't have to wait for them to DM you like you do on a Facebook page maybe or something. It's a little harder to connect. But it's how it's hard to message as the page, but in Instagram, you can just DM them straight away. And so you can take the initiative like, hey, this is, your church USA and wanted to follow up about the comment you made. So sorry that it was your experience. Let me know how we can help. And here's how you can meet with a pastor. It's just opportunities for ministry. And I'll tell you this. Some people will say, you don't want to do this all day long. And you don't. You don't need to do this all day long, and you don't need to spend all your time on this, but you need to offer this opportunity. And the reason I think that's important is because they're people. And so I was at a church of 4 campuses, 8,000 people. It was not a problem. It did not take up a lot of my time. The frequency with which you'll do this is pretty low most places, unless you're at a church that has a pastor that's very high profile, that does a ton of controversial stuff. Then you're probably not going to deal with this too often. So you have the time. Make the time. All right. So invite them back if possible, because at the end of the day, we're not here selling products. We're not trying to get them to, just say, oh, you're not interested, we're moving on. We're not doing that. That's not what we do in the church space. It's different. And so we're going to be the ones that have to reach out and do this kind of stuff on behalf of our pastor, which brings up a good point. You need to have this conversation with your pastor about what you can and can't do, or should and shouldn't do, and when you want to send, because this may not be relevant to you at all. The policy at your church might be, when this happens, you just direct to a pastor and they handle it. And that is totally fine. In fact, I prefer that, because at the end of the day, most of us are not, seminary degree qualified pastoral, that's just, maybe we are qualified, who knows, but that's not what we're here for. So on Instagram, you have to be careful, like how you're getting into this as a church, because you're representing the church and you're representing Jesus online. And I think that's really, really important. All right, let's jump to the post for the week. I got one image sent to me from Janine Dishman. We're going to share this today. Here's her post from Instagram that she just thought was great. We'll talk about this for just a second. This is it. She's at Unity Presbyterian Church. And this is a great photo of one of their senior citizens, senior members that goes to their church. It's fun. It's an elderly woman. Shows a lot of personality. They're actually doing a service project behind there. You can see what's going on. And it says, sometimes you have to post a picture just because. Thanks, Jane. You'll have a good day today. Don't forget to smile. And I think that there is a really fun element here, because one, it's an elderly person on Instagram, which is not normal for, Instagram churches that use Instagram, because the senior crowd doesn't really use Instagram too much. I think it's going to grow, and it is growing, but they're really on board with Facebook. And so to see this on Instagram is really kind of refreshing in a way, but it's, it shows this personality of this church. Even if you don't have just a bunch of young people at your church, you can show what's going on, and you can see ministry happening in the background. You can see that they're having fun doing it. There's a range of ages in this photo. It's really good. And I want to talk about the specs on this. This has 20 likes, and they have 181 followers total. They probably had less at this time. This is an older post. So it was 44 weeks ago. You can see from the time she sent it. This is the picture that they said kind of kicked off their Instagram, that really got it going, and people started paying attention. Now they're getting 30 likes or so per post and things like that. I went and looked at it. That's 11% reach compared to their followers who's liking the post. Now those may not all be followers, but for the majority, that's kind of how it works for us. That's 11%. And before we say, wow, that's not very much, according to Quora, I never know how to say the name, Quora, it's kind of this information site. The average percentage for good content on Instagram is 3 to 6% of your followers like your post. So 11% is actually pretty good. It's actually kind of exceptional. And this is not a super designed post. This is not taken probably with a DSLR camera or any of those types of things, but it's a good percentage of what they're trying to do on Instagram that reaches people and engages them with the likes. Now, there's no comments on it. We'd like to see some comments on this kind of thing. But to be fair, there was no question or anything in the caption. This is really just an impression post. So you want people to see it, kind of have a feeling, which is fine. And so I think it does what you wanted it to do, and I think it's a great post. So thanks, Janine, for sending that in. If you have a great post that you think is good, you want to send that in, send it to me at seth@sethmuse.com, and I might use it in the next week. Which brings me to the assignment. Obviously, that's always an assignment. Always send me a great Instagram post that you see. Always do that. I'd love to use it. But your tip, your assignment this week is to send me the best Instagram tip for churches that you've heard or that you know of. And let's share a little knowledge of what you've learned and experienced, what's worked for you on Instagram, things that have been these principles that guide you and how you think about your strategy, your content for your church, etc. Here's mine. Here's something I've learned lately on stories, because a lot of people want information about Instagram stories. They want to know how to do it. They want to know how to do it better and create content because it goes so fast and then it's done in 24 hours, right? So how do we make this count? How do we really do this well? For stories, I say focus on stacks and stickers. Those two things can really help create some engaging posts. Now, here's what I mean. When I say stacks, I'm thinking about photo stacks. An image that has the 3 bam, bam, bam photos in a row. There's some apps that, you can get that are free. I use a couple that can create stories. I really recommend finding some of these, like InShot is one of the apps that's really great for stories. Mojo is one. Mematic is good for memes. Unfold is a good app. I'm just looking at my folder here of all these things that I have. Glitch Studio can make some things. So you just go on and find the stories making app in the store, and there's a ton of things there for you to use. Those are some good ones. But all of them, even in Instagram, there's a layout filter kind of thing for what's it called? I think it's called layout. And you can just basically pop in your photos, and they have a grid built for you to create some out of templates or whatever. And that's what all those do. So grab that 3 photo template, and in between other things you might post on your stories, post just a photo stack. Grab photos from before and whatever. And here's what this does. You can't really process 3 photos too fast. And so you might get some good algorithm game, game the algorithm a little bit, because people will have to press and hold and stop to look at it. So that might help they stay on your story longer, because anytime they're looking at your story, there's a counter going to see how long they're looking at it, that Instagram's gauging to see how involved people are with your content, which is crazy, right? It's just, there's so much math going on in the background, you have no idea. So the photo stack really does help keep a little bit longer engagement on each story, because they might have to stop and hold to look. So that's a good little tactic. Plus, it's just cool looking, and it really just it allows you more of your church to be seen in the story of what's going on in the moment, especially when you're in like a service or an event or a Bible study, something going on. You can share a bunch of, that way it's not like just about the one great photo. You can have a couple of good photos and then spread that out a little bit. So anyway, the stack is good. The stickers are the other that really, like questions, polls, things like that. You might have to think a little bit how to engage people, but sometimes I keep a folder of just a solid color that I can grab and use as the backdrop for a sticker. And honestly, that's enough, because the sticker, they just want to interact with the sticker, answer the question or whatever. And so you may ask, like, what was your favorite song today? Or, that's kind of where that type of post I think really belongs if you're going to do it, because it allows them to say something to you and then you can talk back, helps with the algorithm. But honestly, you can do some things like, what was the best thing you heard in the sermon today? What really struck you? What questions do you have about today's sermon? I'm thinking more like for the weekend service, stuff you can put in there. But what do you really want to know from your people is a great thing to think about when you're using these stickers. Polls. What was the best song we did today? What was your favorite scripture, and give some options. Things that can really invest in them thinking about the meat of the service for the week, rather than the actual meat, like on a real hamburger. Like, what's your favorite hamburger? Things like that. Those are fine, whatever, but they're not really valuable for spiritual growth. So if you think about, how can I continue to keep my people thinking about the content of the message throughout the week? It's these kind of stories, because then they'll DM you by responding, and you can either share those responses with their name, tag them, because everybody loves that. And then they can share it on their stories if you tag them, if it's a public deal, because you should be set up as public. So there's just a lot of features there that can really gain you some real deep engagement in stories by thinking about stacks and stickers. And I think that's just a great tip for anyone who wants to try some things. It's good to try it in stories, because again, in 24 hours, it's gone. So that's my tip. I'd love to hear your tips. Send it to me at seth@sethmuse.com. And that is our show for today for the Instagood show, to help your church get Instagood at Instagram. Continue to talk in the comments below here. I'd love to hear more of your questions, thoughts. What do you want to learn about Instagram? That's a great thought to share with me so that I can provide some content for you. All right. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you watching, commenting, etc. Oh, hey, what's up, Michael? Glad you commented. Thanks for being there. And we'll catch you guys next week at noon East. Well, it's noon Central. We got to get this time thing down. It'll be 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central. I'll be here every week on Thursday. So we'll see you then. See ya.